Most boards will readily admit we're navigating a VUCA world, yet their committee structures, agendas, and director recruiting criteria often look remarkably similar to a decade ago. Today, we're tackling that disconnect head on. What it actually takes to build a board that's resilient, curious, and agile, not just in principle, but in practice, from how you recruit directors to what shows up on your agenda. And we're tackling it with Tanuja Dehne, Director and NomGov Committee Chair of Granite Point Mortgage Trust Incorporated, Chair of the Drexel, LeBeau, Raj, and Kamla Gupta Governance Institute, and author of the Directors and Boards cover story, Board Composition in a Volatile Environment. We'll get into the concrete first steps boards should take, how to evaluate qualities like curiosity and foresight that don't fit neatly into a skills matrix, and what separates a board built for today's risks from one still running on a pre-pandemic playbook. Tanuja, many boards acknowledge we're operating in a VUCA environment, but their governance processes haven't changed much. If a board wanted to become meaningfully more resilient over the next 12 months, what are the first 2 or 3 changes you would make?
First and foremost, make time. Take time and then practice. It is really about consistency. So what do I mean about that? We have really, really crowded board agendas. We, as public company directors, meet 4 or 5 times a year on a regular schedule. The agendas are filled. We have many, many reports coming our way, but we really need to take the time to kind of, with a blank piece of paper, reimagine how would we approach this how would we approach our work in this environment? So that's why I say make time, because that's the most important thing and that's the hardest thing. This is really about board cultural dynamics and really taking the time to interrogate, examine, how do we work together as a board? How are we making decisions in this environment? How are we scenario planning? How are we communicating with each other? And the last thing I'll say on this topic, it's about consistency. Like building any sort of muscle, it takes practice, practice, practice. So these are very fundamental things I'm sharing with you, but they are actually the most challenging because the way we've operated is the way we've operated, and it is the path of least resistance. And we have to take a time to say, nope, we got to do things differently.
In board composition in a volatile environment, you argue that boards need curiosity, agility, and the ability to see around corners. Are those qualities difficult to evaluate? How can NomGov committee chairs actually assess those traits in recruiting or evaluating directors?
This is really about mindset and competencies and behaviors and norms, and they are challenging to assess because we tend to evaluate on the facts and on specific skills. But what we're really looking for when we're building resilient boards is not only the skills that bring us to the table, but the will and the mindset to effectuate change. So ways to really go deep and to unpack whether an existing director or a potential new director has those behaviors and those attributes, those competencies, is to really probe deeply about, for example, in recent years, how has that individual led through and navigated through VUCA and the workforce and the workplace dynamics? Seeing around the corners is really about the willingness and the ability to scenario plan and to take the time to imagine multiple futures and going in with a mindset that there's a lot I know and there's a lot I don't know. And it's in that place of I don't know that we may be able to thrive in these crises. And the last thing I would also say is that, board members, we have to be lifelong learners. We have to be curious. And that also is going to build and the consistency, our agility. But what courses are we taking? Are we taking the time? Is there a culture on the board where we have consistent director education? This is a multi-pronged strategy to upskill the board for this volatile environment.
You warn against relying too heavily on the traditional pathways into the boardroom. boardrooms, CEOs, CFOs, experienced directors. How should boards balance the need for proven governance experience with the need for new perspectives, digital expertise, and proximity to emerging risks?
You said it right there. The key word is balance. This is balancing those skills, those key operational skills of CEO and CFO, that key experience of governance expertise and experience, balancing that wisdom and that operational experience with also this recency of experience and the relevance of leadership. If we're only thinking about CEOs and CFOs, we're missing a wide swath of operational and organizational experience that is needed in the boardroom today. For example, chief marketing officers, human resources professionals, digital and cyber, CISOs, for example. And my argument is really about both and. So you have a balanced strategic asset board. And I think it's really important that we don't want to discount the wisdom of individuals who have been on the board for a period of time and who have served on multiple public company boards. They bring important wisdom to the table. We need that, but we also need new perspectives, and we need folks who have led through these crises. We have 5 generations in the workforce. We need to be addressing that very thoughtfully with understanding. And again, I'm going to keep going back to this with an open mind and a culture that's embracing a lot of differences so we can imagine many futures so our organizations thrive.
If you walked into a boardroom today and reviewed its agenda, what would tell you that the board is truly built for resilience? And what would signal that it's operating with a pre-pandemic, pre-AI governance mindset?
Well, for me, red flags on a board agenda is one where it's back to back to back to back, one topic after the next topic after the next topic. You might have a 15-minute break thrown in there, but this back to back to back to back reports. Agendas need to have spaciousness. They need time, and boards of directors needs time. We need time to have a conversation. The way I like to structure agendas, first of all, I love to have an executive session up front with the CEO, kind of a state of the union, tell us what's on your mind. The CEO can help direct us on what's the key issues throughout the whole agenda. The CEO can also share with us why they chose or selected this or that executive to be presenting, because that could be part of a strategic succession planning process. I also like to end meetings with executive session with the CEO, but then the executive session with the independent directors. Again, it's a good bookend closure. It also gives time for discussion. But these agendas need to be reevaluated. They're already so crowded. And so for me, again, a red flag is if management teams are just reporting with stacks and stacks of materials. A way to redesign these governance infrastructure is, again, to take a blank sheet of paper. And this is a board's requirement. A board needs to do this. Say, how will we use our time more effectively? And what is our cadence to ensure that through the course of the year, we are hitting on the most strategic, high impact areas for us in our discussion where we can add the most value. So it's really maximizing time on the agendas. We can use tools. There are AI tools out there. There's technology out there that can help boards be more efficient. Of course, there's lots of rules around that, and your lawyers are going to help you make sure you stay within the boundaries of what you can and cannot use in AI. But these tools, really, we need to be embracing them so that we can maximize our time together. We can leverage tools and technology for the work that we do already, for succession planning, for our board evaluations, our board assessments. All of this can make our work more efficient so we can really use our time most efficiently for strategic planning and really supporting the management team. And the last thing I'll share with us is this is a team sport between boards and their management teams. Boards cannot really completely change their culture and their operations without management. And so boards must be, as the powers in the board's hand, empowering their management teams to say that, listen, we like your materials, but we don't need 50 pages on each presentation. Let's pare them back. Or Give us 50 pages, but we'll review them ahead of time. And let's be really efficient about what's being presented at the board meeting so that we have kind of a 20-80, 20% presentation, 80% discussion. So our management teams really need to be empowered, or else they will kind of revert to what's the path of least resistance for them. So it's a two-way street. It's a team sport. We have to do this together.